Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Thursday, the 21st of March. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm joined for the first time this week by Joshua Barry. How's it going, Joshua?
Good, Derek. I left my people who watched the Sunday show after Chris and I went up to Dens Park unsuccessfully. I managed to leave my work laptop and work phone up at my parents who live near Perthshire. So that's why I've not been around, but looking forward to speaking about this week, what's been happening and what some of the stuff we've got on the website and trying to survive the international break, which we've made it to Thursday so far, so we're not doing too badly.
Yeah, another day closer to Rangers returning to action. Of course, Hibs next up at Ibrox on the 30th of March. Before we talk all things Rangers, folks, as you are well aware, a quick bit of admin. Our podcast sponsors, MPH Boilers. You can see their banner above myself and Joshua's head there. Give them a call up for that if something you're thinking of. They've got some great deals on offer at this moment in time. The all-important links are in the description below. These are the guys to call if that is something that is on your mind at this moment in time. Right, let's talk Rangers news yesterday. A couple of bits of news. First of all, we'll discuss the Dundee fixtures being rearranged, Joshua. Of course, the match was postponed on Sunday due to a waterlogged pitch. The match will now take place on Wednesday, April the 10th, with an 8 p.m. kickoff. So that is a new date for the Dundee game, which has been arranged. It will be on Sky TV as well. And it means that Rangers will have that free week between coming back from the international break when they take on Hibs to the Old Firm game on Sunday, the 7th of April. So this game will be scheduled in between the Celtic game and Rangers' trip to Ross County the following week. Quite satisfied with that date, Joshua?
I think it's probably, if you'd given Clement the option, and we know he wasn't happy, Derek, he said at the end after the game when he was asked about, is there any positives in this? Look, you've not got many players back for the game had it taken place on Sunday just past. And he said there was no positives because, internationalists were going away. Rangers had prepared to play that game there and then. As we covered Sunday and Monday, they'd only found out about the potential of this game being called off when their kitman arrived early. So a whole process that was frustrating for Clement. But had you given him a date, I think, to replay this game, I don't know about you, Derek, but that date probably is the better alternative. You don't want it before an Old Firm game, just on the basis of you risk more injuries. You've got less time to prepare for that game. You're going to be a little bit less fresh. We know how taxing that game can be. It does make the week after that difficult because you've got the Old Firm game, and I believe Rangers are also going to Dingwall that Sunday, aren't they? So you've got a trip to Dundee sandwiched in between those two ties, but probably a better alternative. Gives you a little bit more time to get players such as Abdallah Sima back from injury. It's going to be a huge boost whenever he can get back. I think it's kind of been not overstated, not understated. Sorry, but he was Rangers' most informed attacker, arguably the most informed attacker in the league before Christmas time. And even if he's got 5 or 6 weeks of football in between now and the end of the season, that could make a big impact. So you're allowing these players more time to get back, allowing someone like Todd Cantwell more time to get back to full fitness. Dujon Sterling had that strain before the break, and he should be fully recovered. Ross McCausland the same. So suddenly then the squad looks like it will have the legs for 3 games in 7 days. Whereas if you consider the 3 games in 7 days that Rangers played away at Benfica, at home to Benfica, and away at Hibs, Derek, they only made 1 change to the starting 11, which, as we know from trying to predict Clement's teams over the last few months, that is not like the Belgian manager when he has the option. So not ideal to have to replay it, but I think a better alternative than the potential of playing that in the midweek before, which would have obviously been before the Old Firm game.
Yeah, not ideal for the supporters either, who are going to have to rearrange their travel plans. I know that many of you guys had already made plans to head up to Dundee. So many of you were already there before the game was called off. Listen, that is the new fixture for the Dundee game, Wednesday, the 10th of April. So a date for your diaries. Other bit of news yesterday to cover is that Rangers have announced their first pre-season friendly, and that will be against Manchester United at Murrayfield on Saturday, the 20th of July. It'll be a 4 p.m. kickoff for that one. I've seen many supporters yesterday saying, why Murrayfield and not Ibrox? Ibrox has been renovated. There's a bit of work taking place at Ibrox in the summertime. I think disabled works and what have you. So it may be the only friendly in Scotland, pre-season friendly, that is this upcoming summer. But Man United, always a glamour friendly, Joshua. It's been a long time since the two clubs have played each other. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, the last time that Man United and Rangers played was in the Champions League group stage in 2010, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Rangers obviously got a 0-0 draw, a bit of a Walter Smith special down at Old Trafford, and then it was a Wayne Rooney penalty, wasn't it, that split the teams in the reverse tie. So yeah, I mean, pre-season, I'm sure that Clement does not care whatsoever about that game at the moment. When it comes round, it will be I'm sure a good day commercially for the club, and that's an important factor in modern football. Man United's played at Murrayfield last summer, I think, against Lyon in front of about 50,000 people. You'd imagine it'll be a complete sellout because, as you mentioned, it looks like it might be the only time that Rangers play a pre-season game in Scotland this summer because of the planned works and the Copeland Stand that it's been spoken about for a long while. Rangers issued an update, I think, about it in January, discussing their plans to add disabled facilities and seats in the Copeland end of the stadium, Derek. So I expect because of that, there to be a lot of interest in it. There was a lot of friendlies at Ibrox last summer. I think Rangers had, 4 maybe friendlies before the season kicked off. Maybe gives supporters a bit of an opportunity to get an away day in the summer as well, which I'm sure they would look forward to. But yeah, it'll be a good day when it comes around. I don't think Clement will care a jot about playing Man United in pre-season at the moment, though.
Yep, it'll be a good test for Rangers up again Murrayfield as well. It'll be the first time Rangers going back there since October 2017 when it was the first game after Pedro Caixinha was given the bullet. And Graham Murty took interim charge. Rangers were good that day, 3-1. Good venue. I think more Scottish football games should be played there. I wouldn't be opposed to seeing perhaps Scottish Cup semi-finals played there. I think it's a better venue than what Hampden is. There's a question that came in, incidentally, on the ticket pricing. David Brown says, morning, guys. Can I ask what your thoughts on the price of the friendly v Man U? I personally think it's very expensive. It's not Rangers who are organising this, David. It's Manchester United and TEG Sports. From what I see, tickets priced from, £23.40 up to... not entirely sure how much it goes up to, but over 40.
I think an adult ticket, I think someone can correct us if I'm wrong, but I believe an adult ticket was 37 at the cheapest, maybe.
Yeah.
I could be making that up. I did glance at it and think it's maybe slightly more expensive than the pre-season friendly. But as you say, Derek, it's not an Ibrox game, is it? I believe Man United are actually the hosts of this game, even though it's not their venue. The fact that they played at this venue against Lyon last summer would suggest that as well. So that's probably why it's a little bit more expensive. Yeah, the lowest price 40, so around that margin. Obviously Rangers, I guess, will hope as well, and Man United as well are quite the commercial club, aren't they? So I'm sure they'll be thinking of pricing with events like this. But it'll be a good day out for supporters in Edinburgh when it comes around, Derek. But a lot more important games to be played before that pre-season friendly. Yeah, absolutely. There's a comment as well. Just James McLean says, was it not a Phil Neville goal? That was the time before the Wayne Rooney goal, the 1-0 at Ibrox twice, James, and it was back in 2003. They came up for the other two. The two Champions League meetings. Rangers were well and truly beaten down at Old Trafford, and they lost by a goal to nil at Ibrox. And AF Meikle pulling me up for yesterday says, Derek, you got it wrong yesterday. Rangers also defeated United 3-2 at Old Trafford in 1973 in a friendly. I think it was 74, buddy. Someone corrected me yesterday, but had no recollection of that game. If you were at Old Trafford on that day, let us know in the comments. I've seen a team list of the two teams on that day, and some cracking players in there, that's for sure. Right, let's move on to some more news, Joshua. Well,
bit of a great piece on the website from your good self on Kemar Roofe. Of course, he's back fit again. We discussed him on Monday because he came out and said that he would like to stay at Ibrox upon the expiry of his contract. He's one of a number of players that is entering the final few months of his current deal. I've said on record many times now, I would be amazed if he's offered a new one. However, it's all about keeping him fit and making sure we can get a contribution out of him before the end of the season. If he can bang in a few goals, then fantastic. You've got a piece on the website this morning saying that his role should be as a finisher, if you like, coming off the bench and finishing games as opposed to starting games. Can you explain?
Yeah, I can. The reason that I wrote this piece, Derek, was because Roofe has played in the league. I'm going to give you a guess, an opportunity to guess. How many minutes do you think he has played in the league since the start of the 2022-23 season? Just the league.
2.
477, which is five.
I thought you meant games. Okay,
sorry, games. Okay, so I was presuming that was a joke. That's okay, fair enough. So effectively 590 minutes, just over 590 minutes, and that's since to put that into context, because this game in my memory feels like years ago. That is since Rangers beat Livingston on the opening day of the season under Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, where James Tavernier scored that free kick and Scott Arfield scored off the back of a Ryan Kent cross, so a while ago. The first 2 seasons that he was here, I've not got the minutes to hand, but he played a lot more regularly. In that the second season, when the managerial change happened halfway through, he was fit a lot of the time under Van Bronckhorst, but just didn't play because of the system of play that was in place. I don't think there's much of a question about keeping Roofe, because his quality is such that it should merit a discussion, but he's just not been available enough. Now, Clement says they're trying to get to the root of the injury issues, but we heard that last year. Roofe has said, to be fair, that he feels like he's been built up instead of just being thrown back in at the deep end. When he was speaking after a game, I think it was after the Benfica game at home last weekend, but he's just not available enough for the amount of money that he will be on. With that said, the fact that people still want to see him play so much, and the reaction of the crowd to him at home and away games, shows that people know what a quality player he is. That's why Roofe was here in the first place. If he didn't have injury issues, there's no way he'd be playing in Scotland. If he didn't have injury issues, he'd be Rangers' best striker. So all that to one side, of course, if you're trying to build a squad that's robust, you need players with far more availability. What you've got to focus on, I think, now is what happens between March and May. In other sports, rugby is the example that I use. The bench in football is always associated as a negative thing, isn't it? Where you don't want to be on the bench. But especially with the 5 subs rule now, you look at how teams are being able to use substitutes. I just think, Derek, that Roofe would be better used, instead of risking him, playing him from the start where there's going to be more running, and risking him breaking down and being injured again. He can't really afford that, because especially if Fabio Silva's having to play out on the left-hand side at points or in the number 10 position, you've not got any other options to bring on a striker. And I just think that Roofe, he's such a good player and he's such a good sub. He's better to be used sparingly, and he could still score 3 or 4 or 5 really important goals, and that will be the narrative of his Rangers career, instead of all the frustrating moments beforehand. We always think that, you need to get players fully fit to start games, but games are 90 minutes, and we never really think, when a team lineup is selected, is how is the manager thinking of a 90-minute game here? How does he want to impact the game after 60 minutes? How might that suit different types of players? And Eddie Jones, the England rugby coach, I think, is the person who coined the starters and finishers phase instead of starters and substitutes. So the piece kind of explores that theme a little bit more, while arguing that, look, it's not to say if Roofe was fully fit, would you or I, if we were picking a Rangers team, play him? Of course we would, but he's not. And I think if you balance the risk and the rewards with this, could you see him coming on 3 or 4 times when Rangers just need a goal, as they will at points over this run, and he's fully fit and fully fresh and ready to do that attack in a defence that's maybe been a bit tired out? You saw that even in the Motherwell game, where he came on and had that opportunity that, watching it back, he had a bit of a penalty shout for, I would say, because he was being held. He just has that ability to get into the right place at the right time. I think he has a mentality when he comes off the bench where he's a good sub, isn't he? He's someone who comes on and makes an impact in games. get him as fit as you can. But I just think, given that he's only played 5 minutes, it's five games since the start of last season, Derek, it's unrealistic to think, he's going to play 10 games between now and the end of the season. Make it manageable, make it realistic. And I still think he could have a pretty big impact between now and the end of the season if he is able to be that kind of finisher for Rangers in big moments.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that thinking if Cyril Dessers starts putting the shooting boots back on. I think he's went off the boil recently, and it has led to some concern, especially heading into big games. Hibs and then Celtic don't come much bigger. Rangers need someone who will take chances and not flaff their lines. And I'm concerned in Cyril Dessers. Rangers will be presented with opportunities that may pass them by. Let us know in the comments, folks. Would you rather Roofe start the next 2 games? By all accounts, he is ready to play and he's fit and firing. But do you run that risk of him breaking down once again? Let's get to a few of the comments that are coming in. First of all, big warm welcome to Scottish Beef, who joined the members section. So howdy, buddy. And Barry Smith with a point here. He says, is Joshua reporting from the Coronation Street set seagulls and police noises? And he's going to be the swan emoji in there. Is there seagulls round about you, Joshua?
It's just Sucky Hall Street, Derek. See, I didn't even notice them. I was so focused on my point. Sucky Hall Street, and I've left the window open in Rangers Review HQ. So that's the issue.
There you go. So they need feeding. Hopefully they can find somebody's poke of chips or something walking up and down that street. There's an interesting point that came in on Roofe. Aldo with a point here. He says Roofe is going to be vital for us in the title run-in, so he must be managed correctly, and I trust Clement to do that. That's pretty much what you're saying there, Joshua. Do you have concerns like me that Cyril Dessers, and I don't trust, Fabio Silva for as much as he has impressed over on that left-hand side? I don't think he is the option through the middle either. It's Cyril Dessers, and that's it pretty much.
I'd be tempted to play Silva maybe in slightly bigger games through the middle. Dessers aside, he had that moment at Betis, didn't he? Where he scored a big goal in a big moment. But that aside, he's obviously the moment at Parkhead, which what would the season look like if that had gone in? The first Old Firm game of the season as well. So there's understandably going to be questions about him in the big moments until he scores in big moments consistently. Silva, we've not really seen him through the number 9 position in a big game at Ibrox, so I'd like to see that. I think that would suit him, Derek, to be honest, because he'd see a lot of the ball. We know he can run in behind. We've talked extensively about his style of play, but I'd be tempted to throw him in at number 9 in the Old Firm game coming up. The big one, as mentioned at the top of the show, is that Abdallah Sima is the one Rangers striker who's really overperformed his expected goals, who has scored consistently. What was he on, about 15 or 16 goals by the time he got injured?
Oh, yeah.
So you've taken... Now, we don't... Because he's not starting as a number 9, we maybe, again, don't think of him as Rangers striker, but you've taken out of that team Rangers' most prolific goal scorer, most dangerous goal threat, probably the player who can just score out of nothing, probably the best... Maybe the best, certainly one of the best strikers of the ball in the team if you take out Roofe. I as well think Danilo. I know he didn't convince everyone before he was out injured, but again, Rangers spent a lot of money on him and he was Feyenoord's starting striker for a good period of last season for a reason. And he's been a big miss as well. So, of course, there's concerns at number 9 going forward. Rangers did not have the budget to go out and spend 4, 5, 6 million on someone to solve that position short term in the January window. And the fact that they were having to solve that issue or having to address it was a kind of a layover, if you will, from what happened in the summer when they did spend so much money, and through either misfortune or players not quite working out. Sam Lammers is obviously the one that a lot of money was spent on as well, and is now... I was watching some of his goals yesterday in the Eredivisie, and he scored some great goals, but just, whether it was mentality or just wasn't able to show it. That was a player who was meant to be a big player for Rangers this season and was never anything close to that. So they've had to survive all season up front. And Dessers has had purple patches when he scored that double against Hearts and Ross County. He looked really good. In recent weeks, he's not scored since then, and he's maybe not been quite at it. I'd at the moment, if you asked me just now, would you start Silva or Dessers up top in that Old Firm game? I'd probably say Fabio Silva. having Roofe off the bench in these games, I just think gives you a complete different dynamic. And it's the same with Sima. If you get Sima back on the bench in an ideal world for that Old Firm game, or maybe just after, it gives you a bit of a psychological lift because you know you've got the options to change it, which, as we know with the 5-sub rule now, there's so much more freedom for a manager when they do have resources, and Clement hasn't really had resources for a lot of his time at the club. But when they do have the resources to go and make the game different from the bench.
Yeah, interesting. Let's get to a few of the comments because there's so many coming in just now. Just on who starts up front. Jamie with the point says only starts I'd give him. He's talking about Roofe as the Old Firm games because we're only going to get a few chances. Ian Edwards with the point. Roofe starting against Celtic will be our best shot at beating them. Starting Dessers is not the answer in that game. And Vicky Davis with an interesting point. Roofe is not unlike Novo was in that I always felt Novo was better coming off the bench than starting, a really good impact player. I was did a Q&A yesterday on the member section, Joshua, and one of the questions was, do Rangers need to overhaul the forward line? How many strikers do they need in the summertime? I've said, I think it was when I was on with Chris yesterday, I said they need 2 out-and-out strikers, number 9s, and perhaps one of at least Cortez or Sima, and maybe even a right winger. Would you go as far as saying Rangers need that many?
Probably. I mean, keeping Cortez, he's the one player that I'd have loved to see more of him this season because we didn't see much of him. Maybe 4 or 5 or 6 starts. They look such an exciting player, a winger who could make decisions, pretty explosive. Just looked like a really quality wide player, which I can't remember the last time Rangers signed a really quality wide player. Would love to see him continue his stay in Glasgow beyond the summer. I think Danilo will come back, and as I've said, when he first came into the club, I like him as a player, Derek. I think he can be a big player for Rangers long term. He's not had the opportunity to do that. I know he missed chances in a couple of games, but again, you remember that he came into the club, didn't start for a while. I think Michael Beale hinted that after the St Johnstone game where he initially hurt his face, broke something in his face, that he'd had some sort of issues that had prevented him from starting games, and then he had that face injury and he couldn't start for a number of games, and then he comes back in, Clement starts him. I thought he worked up a really good partnership with Sima, Todd Cantwell as well, and then gets that unfortunate knee injury, which is a really severe one, which is obviously likely to end the season. If he does play again this season, it's not going to be meaningful compared to the impact that was hoped he would have between the course of the season. They still need to invest in that area, absolutely, because I'm sure if you at the moment gave people the opportunity of Dessers being your number 9, as well as he's done in moments, people, we've got 630 people on this show. I wonder how many would say they want Dessers as their starting number 9 next season, Derek. I don't think too many, being brutally honest. At the moment, Roofe isn't your long-term answer. Sima, you're going to do incredibly well to keep him. Led to believe it's increasingly likely that Fabio Silva does leave Wolves in the summer, but if Wolves are looking for a price for him, it's going to be
15 million apparently.
Rangers. Yeah, it would be a good summer if Rangers could afford to pay that. So you're going to need to do a lot of work within that position. What you would say is that I think Niels Coppin coming in to spearhead the recruitment in January, while there was a lot more work that could have been done, I think it was good business in the circumstance of Rangers not having much money, if any at all. They got someone like Silva, who's a quality player. Is it the absolute ideal situation what you've got at number 9 overall? No, but again, it's the overall context of how much money has been spent in that position and the money that was there to be spent in January. Deal mandate, that deal has been structured to get him in now, and we know he's made a good impact. Definitely, you can see he's a quality player, can make an impact now, can make Rangers money down the line. And then Cortez was probably the one of those 3 that was most exciting towards the end of the January window, but had that really unfortunate injury. So it's going to require more smart buys like that in the summer, because I'm in agreement with you. I think you need a lot of quality in that final third. Clement has been doing the best with what he has in regards to the squad, especially in the final third, where he's had to play players out of position continually, and no 3 games highlight that more, I think, than the 3 before this international break. We've got Sterling, who started your season as a backup right back, as your right winger. You've got Fabio Silva playing on the left wing, and he can play from the left, but not really as a wide outlet, more as moving in as a second striker in that position, and then you've not got really many options at your number 10 or number 9 position in terms of depth whatsoever. So quality in the final thirds, I absolutely think that's the priority in summer.
Yeah. There's a question that came in just on Cortez, world's greatest DJ. Is he out for the season? I would assume so. I know he posted that image of him in the hospital bed saying back soon. Clement isn't one to give timescales, but I would be amazed if he made a recovery from an operation and pulled the Rangers shirt back on this season. Whether we see him in Rangers colours again remains to be seen. I've seen enough. I've said this before that I would like him to come either on another perhaps season-long loan, 6-month loan deal, or even if Rangers feel that he's done enough, pay the money and bring him in from loans. I think they'll be looking for their money back, which was around €4 million. I think they paid Molinarios over there in Colombia. And I like the fact that Clement, when he was asked about Cortez when he signed him, he's a good track record of working with Colombians. That is good enough for me. So, like you, Joshua, he's someone that gets bums off seats, isn't he? I can't remember the last guy that Rangers had in the team. I mean, Ryan Kent at times was able to do that, but his final delivery often let him down. I'm racking my brain to think of the person before that. Barry Mackay, someone that sort of was a shining light during those torturous years coming up through the leagues. Done it for a little spell. That aside, I'm struggling to think. But yeah, he's certainly someone I'd like to see at Rangers next season.
Definitely. Again, we only saw him for a brief period of time, but a winger who could make a decision. A really good shot from range, didn't we? And we saw that pretty continuously. His first or second start was against Ayr, and obviously that is not the highest level of opponent in Scotland, but I just remember watching that first half and thinking he just wanted to take things on. I always think the sign of a good winger is when they don't try the same thing all the time, they mix it up, and he was as comfortable receiving it wide as he was moving inside to kind of play in combination with the striker. So another real blow that he's out. If he is out for the season, we don't know if he's never going to be seen again between now and May, but certainly unlikely, as you say, if he's had that operation, and that's what Clement said at the time. But you can't underestimate or overstate how big of a blow it is to not only have your first choice player on the left, Abdallah Sima, who's probably your player of the season up till then, be out long term with an injury that he suffered away from the Rangers camp, and then you sign his replacement, 20-year-old winger who looks just as exciting, and he gets injured in a kind of freak accident, muscle injury, playing at Rugby Park. So the luck that Rangers have had, and Clement in particular, he's never used that as an excuse. But you do start to think, well, where could they be if they actually did have first choice options in the final third? If they did have the best decision makers possible. If you did have a front four, Derek, of maybe Cortez on the right, Sima on the left, you've got the option of Danilo, Silva, Dessers or Roofe at number 9, and you've got Cantwell and Lawrence at number 10. That's a totally different proposition. Again, when we're talking about the way that subs can impact a game, and also the way that you can rotate your squad from game to game. Before I forget, Derek, I've got pre-submitted questions.
Yes.
Which I'll give the context. We're getting our kitchen done this week by Falsey and Neil, who are doing an incredible job, completely stress-free for us. And Neil's friend Willie, I can't remember his username, but Willie says he watches all the time. And he had I think it was 2 questions. One was, why don't Rangers score from corners? I think, or was it why does James Tavernier take every corner? Or why don't corners beat the first man? So my answer to that is because teams are trying to target the area just behind the first zonal marker, which is why you see, especially Ridvan, hit the first man quite often, because they're trying to kind of hit that sweet spot, the Joe Aribo run. Maybe the second question was, why aren't Rangers scoring from corners that much? And man, we've spoke about corners a lot, haven't we?
They're not working on them enough.
I think it's a bugbear for you at the moment, isn't it? Yeah. But I think that especially what you'd say, Derek, is that they don't feel threatening enough. And while that sounds, you're only going to score statistically from what on average 3 in, maybe not 3 in 100, but a low proportion of corners. So there's a tendency, I think, when a team has a lot of corners to fall into the mindset of thinking you should create a high value chance from them every time, which you're not. And statistically, Rangers, as I've said a few times, and obviously this doesn't actually mean anything tangibly this year, Rangers scored a lot of set piece goals last season, They've scored a lot less this season, but the underlying numbers of the actual chances they've created haven't differentiated that much. Where I think there is real scope for improvement is you're not watching Rangers and thinking there's a lot of routine there or there's a lot of variation. And probably if you're a defending team, that helps you out as well. So I just think that there needs to be more. Obviously, it was a big talking point when Rangers lost against Benfica because of how aggressive they were pushing up towards the edge of the box, which I don't mind. That I quite like that they want to be aggressive instead of just being conservative at home. But I think there is more scope to try different routines, which we did see a little bit more of last season. What comes into that, I don't know, because I'm not there every week looking at the time they have to work on set pieces. Clement was obviously asked by Johnny at a recent press conference. So I think while the stats show that it's not as bad as people are making it out to be, and the number of corners that you get when you're a dominant team, you feel that you should score from them every time, and that's not going to happen. I do agree that on the eye test, there's not enough creativity there at the moment, which is leading into Rangers maybe not looking quite as threatening from corners. And there was a third question, I can't remember what it is. So hopefully,
we'll find out. We can answer
hopefully,
it.
He probably isn't watching, and I've just done that for nothing. But if he is, you can put it in the chat and we'll answer it tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm sure he's watching it whilst he's sticking up your kitchen cupboards, Joshua. But listen, come the summertime, I understand Philippe Clement has simplified things since he came in. There was a lot of things that you had to do to get Rangers to this point, but I would like to see more work done on corners in the summertime. Pre-season gives an ample opportunity to do that. I would like a proper set-piece coach coming in, a guy that dedicates his time trying to improve clubs' set pieces. Now, I know that a number of clubs employ people like that, and I would like to see Rangers have someone like that in the building, a Tom Culshaw type character, if you like. I'm sure it'll pay dividends as we've seen the 55 season. We already remember the Joe Aribo that you just touched on there, Joshua. The flick on at the near post, how many goals came from that? And listen, it's a massive game of football set pieces, and Rangers at this moment in time are lacking in that department. So, good questions from the guys fit in your kitchen, Joshua. They can ask more questions going forward. Right, that'll do us there. Huge thanks to Joshua and to each and every one of you for interacting with the show. As ever, it is much appreciated. Plenty on the website, as we touched on earlier. Joshua's great piece on Kemar Roofe. Do go and check it out. He's also got a cracking piece on James Tavernier and how his role has changed under Philippe Clement. And there's plenty also to come on the YouTube channel, as well as a Q&A show yesterday for those of you that are members on there. And I think we'll be doing a wee piece on Tav, I think, Joshua, at some point. Perhaps a little later on, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Right, we'll be back tomorrow. I'll be on with Stevie tomorrow morning. We hope you can join us then. Until then, enjoy the rest of your Thursday. Bye for now.